Hello and warm welcome to yet another exciting edition of the Final Take with the studios here in Seattle. Today I have a special guest, Mr. Honorable Cherno Jallow, the Vice Chairperson of the Gambia's Independent Electoral Commission. As you know, Gambians are preparing to go to polls December 2026 to elect a new president that will steer the affairs of the country for the next 5 years. And IEC, as an independent body, mandated to conduct free and fair elections to guess what 2026 presidential election entails. I guess is Mr. Jallow, a few and diplomats. Mr. Jallow, welcome to the Final Take with Sena from Seattle on virtual studio today.
Thank you very much, Seni. Thank you for having me. I'm really honored and I'm at the same time humbled because this is my first media interaction since I assumed office as vice chair of the IC. So I'm deeply honored, and it is with deep humility also that I accept to respond to your question in spite of the poor quality of the line. Thank you very much, Seni, for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Jallow, for your time to join us today on this very important discussion. Unfortunately, due to some technical issues, we couldn't connect you via the live webcam or camera from your end. But the most important thing here is the message, and the discussion that will unfold in an hour time. Mr. Jallow, warm welcome to Final Take once again. You were appointed vice chairman in July 2025. After more than 20 years as a UN diplomat and international civil servant, a high-stake mission across Africa and beyond, what prompted your decision to return home and accept this very important role at a time for Gambia's democracy?
Seni, as you rightly stated, I joined the civil service on the 2nd of February 1985. And I served mostly in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Office of the President, and also as Assistant Commissioner Janjambure over a period of 15 years when I was fired by the then President Yahya Jammeh on the 31st of December 1999. And then that prompted me to look for other avenues of survival. And then that was what prompted me to join the UN. And at that time, in 2000, June 8, 2000, I was appointed as a United Nations volunteer in East Timor with the late Honorable Omar Jallow, Ganyi Toure, and other PPP members of parliament like Famandu and also Malang Savo, if my memory serves me right. And we had a black team of Gambians there, Ismail Sise, Sehunyai, and all those people who are now retired. And that was our way of sharing our expertise with the Timorese who were experiencing very difficult moments after years of Indonesian occupation. And from after the attainment of independence of East Timor, I moved on to Sierra Leone, where I worked with UNAMSIL up to the last day of UNAMSIL. Then I moved on to Nairobi. I worked with the UN Political Office for Somalia, which was then based in Nairobi. And from Nairobi, I moved on to the Central African Republic with the Peace Building Mission. And from there, I went to Eastern DRC, Bukavu, where we organized the elections in 2011. And after the elections, I decided to come back to work in the in Gabon with the UN Office for Central Africa. We covered the entire ECA zone. And from there, I returned finally to the DRC, where I spent over 14 years as a principal political advisor to the head of the UN mission in Kinshasa up to my retirement on the 30th of April 1995. And what prompted me actually to come back to the Gambia was my retirement. I wanted to take a break. But when I was approached to serve, I said, okay, given the limited experience and expertise that I've acquired, the only thing I can do is to try to give back to country. And it would have been selfish on my part not to share what I have gathered as experience and expertise, because having worked in conflict situations like in the DRC, Sierra Leone, where elections were high stake in nature, I thought that when given this post, I could try to bring on board my experience, try to harness and leverage what I've been able to gather there to make sure that we can shepherd a very transparent, inclusive, credible, and peaceful elections that can contribute to the consolidation of peace and security and stability in this country. I wanted to give back to the country. That was the main reason why I decided to take on this responsibility. And as I always tell people, my future is behind me. I'm not looking for anything else in life. I've been lucky to have gone to that stage, and and I think I don't need anything more in life now other than serving my country. And most importantly, in accepting this job, I put forward the issue of integrity. Integrity is important because, you know, elections in everywhere in the world are moments of tension. But that doesn't mean that we should burn our country for that. Political leaders could have different agendas, different
Absolutely.
strategies, but they are not
Yeah,
enemies, they are adversaries, actually. So that
absolutely.
is the message I wanted to
Yeah.
send across by taking up this appointment. Sini, yeah.
Okay. Congratulations, Mr. Jallow, for your appointment once again. My next question apply here. Your career involves civilian protection, institution building, conflict resolution, and fostering dialogue in places like Sierra Leone, Somalia, CAR, and DRC. In what specific way do you believe that your background equip you and the IEC to deliver free, fair, credible, and transparent election in December 2026?
I'm joining a very dynamic team. In the ER, in the IEC, after interacting with the colleagues and others, members of the commission and the regional electoral officers, the assistant regional electoral officers, I see a dedicated and committed team, a team that is dedicated and ready to bend over backwards to make sure that they deliver on their mandate. And that is very inspiring. What I bring on board is the external experience to enhance what is being done, because there are always what you call international best practices, and these best practices could be used and could be leveraged to improve on what is already being done. Because what is clear and what we have all agreed on is that we would work as a team, and that team spirit is there. And the team spirit is to make sure that we foster credible,
Mm,
peaceful, inclusive, and elections
mm,
that are beyond reproach, that Gambians would be happy with. And at the end of the day, we would
mm,
have, you know, done what is needful, because in the final analysis, we are accountable to the Gambian people. As I always say, this is not our process. We have been entrusted with the responsibility to shepherd
mm,
a process on behalf of the Gambian people. And the
mm,
most important thing is to see how we can build confidence and trust around that process. That is the most important thing. And that is that in external experience that I've gathered, especially when it comes to fostering political dialogue among different political actors of different views. That is also very important. And also to remind them that we have only one country. And based on the experience and what I've seen in other countries, we may disagree, we may disagree, but that should not lead us to take extremist positions. It is very important that we remember that the country that we have to preserve it, its peace and stability, and make sure that we do everything possible as stakeholders, all of us, that to moving forward to ensure that you know, we don't, we try to contribute to what I call the process of democratic construction, because democracy is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. There are different facets. It's not only about elections. It goes beyond elections. And these are some of the ingredients that we want to bring on board, and to make sure that Gambians take ownership of the process. They should be included, youth, the elderly, the vulnerable, persons living with disabilities. All segments of Gambian society should be included, including the diaspora at the appropriate time. That is very important because that is what we call inclusivity and participatory contribution to the democratic process. Seni, can you hear me?
Mr. Jallow, are you there?
Yes, I can hear you, Seni. I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay, okay, go ahead. And now that the IEC has published the 2026-2027 calendar last October, voter registration in early 2026. The main supplementary registration is approaching or underway. Nominations are scheduled for late October to early November, and the polling is on the 5th November. How far along are these preparations for the voter registration exercise, and will a biometric verification or OTEC be deployed to ensure the register is clean and secure?
Thank you very much, Seni. I would start with what we have been doing after the launch of the calendar, which was done in public, and we brought on board all stakeholders. It was done for the first time at the the Kairaba International Conference Center, and we made sure that we invited all the stakeholders involved and partners involved in this process to make sure that we are on the
International
same
training,
page.
conference center.
Yeah. So to make sure that we are on the same page, because this is very important, so that the being on the same level of information is very important. That helps to enhance transparency in the process. After that, you had this the adoption of the adoption of the new Elections Act. Most people are not aware that there is a new Elections Act that has been assented to by the head of state on the 24th of November 2025, which introduced some significant changes in the electoral laws governing this country. So that prompted us to organize a 6-day training workshop in Mansakonko in January, so that we can see how we can help come up with guidelines and regulations
you just
to
mentioned?
operationalize this important document. One important change is the issue of registration of political parties. The fee has been raised now from, it's now 2 million. And there are some other issues like, and that's why we decided that we would have these training workshops, so that as members of the commission and as a leadership of the IEC, we would apprise ourselves and take ownership of this document. And then from that, organize training sessions and sensitization for all the stakeholders, so that they are aware of the main contours of this important document. And even 2-3 days ago, we were invited actually by the select committee of the National Assembly to discuss how far we've gone with preparations for the elections. And we provided them update, and we realized that they were not at the same level of information as members of the commission. So that prompted us to try to reflect on the need to have a joint retreat with them as representatives of the people, so that they can also internalize the document that they adopted which was adopted by Parliament. They are the lawmakers, so that they can help also in sensitizing their constituents and all that stuff about the main provisions of this new Elections Act. But I can tell you that as a commission, we are committed to ensuring there is transparency in the registration process, and to make sure that all eligible Gambian voters with the requisite documents would be allowed to register. The law is very clear. The documents that are required for registration are spelled out in the Elections Act. This the ID card, the passport, and other national documents, and where this is not available, attestation. The issue of attestations has always been a contentious issue. I know this has been raised several times. It has been raised by members of parliament. But the law is the law. We are not the lawmakers. Parliament is responsible for making laws. We try to influence and lobby, but in the final analysis, they are the lawmakers. But where we find that there are some gray areas in the Elections Act, what we are trying to do is to come up with regulations. We have power as a commission to try to clarify and address some of these gray areas. So, and that is one of the issues that we try to address during our retreat in summer. And the other thing is that in preparation for this registration process, right now, in fact, the whole of last week we were in the field. As a returning officer personally for KM, I had to visit with my team all the registration centers to make sure that everything is intact, and where adjustments need to be done, need to be done, that would be done. We have almost completed the process countrywide. It would end around the 14th. And this is done in tandem also with the inspection of regional office of political parties, because this time around we want to ensure that political parties comply with the Elections Act. They need to have operational and functional offices in all the regions. And the new Elections Act gives us the power to sustain political parties that are found wanting. So we were going around, and in the final analysis, our people around the country would give a report, and the commission would sit down and decide what is to be done next time for, regarding some of these parties that are not in compliance.
Mr. Jallow, this is an issue that the IEC has always faced in terms of regularizing these political parties. Recently, we have seen over 20 political parties and still counting. And the IEC rules said that all these political parties must at least have structures in place, regional structures and offices. And you are just saying that recently you toured the country looking at some of these issues, but a report will come. So those that are not in compliance, will the IEC take a decision to deregister them or stop them from contesting the election because their houses are not in order?
Seni, thank you very much. In the previous act, which has just been, now we have a new act. The previous act talked about deregistering. Now it's about suspension until they regularize. So it's not a question. Yeah. And now we are saying that there will be no complacency.
Okay.
Political parties, as the ICE is being held accountable, political parties should also equally be held accountable. So, so we're going to be very strict on that. No decision has been taken for that yet, but reports will be compiled. I'm not saying that parties have not been compliant or anything whatsoever, but we are waiting for reports to come. And as a commission, we'll sit down and then we'll look at the reports objectively and we'll take a decision on a case-by-case basis. And you've been talking about political parties. Right now, we have 22 registered political parties, and 7 others submitted their registration papers. And for all of them, we had to return their papers, ask them to redo, to resubmit, because there were some errors. They need to do their homework. They were found wanting in certain things that they were supposed to provide in their documentation. So we are very strict when it comes to compliance. So we have those 7 that have been returned, and we have received other 2, which we are reviewing now before taking a decision. So that is where we start.
Okay. Mr. Jallow, this is very interesting because a lot of all eyes are on IEC right now because of the critical role you play in the election. Can you kindly put your phone on silence, please? Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry, I've done it.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very interesting information coming out. You said as we speak right now, 22 political parties have been registered and 7 are currently on the review, but some of them did not meet the requirements. So you ask, they have errors in their paper submission.
Saying is the 7, none of them have complied with the requirements, and we've returned there. We've asked them to resubmit the 7. And apart from those 7, there are 2 others that have submitted that this is their first submission, and we are reviewing, and we'll get back to them. Our technical experts are looking at, to all the documentation and to ensure that there is compliance. And where they are found wanting and do not comply, we write back to them, send them we say that, okay, you do your homework, and these are the issues that you need to address and to make sure that you are in compliance.
Is the UMC party part of the 7 or the 2 that are under review? Because there has
I would hesitate to comment on specific political parties,
Okay.
and for understandable reasons.
Okay.
As an independent electoral commission, and there are certain things that we do not throw out as such in the public domain, unless when.
Yeah, but you can confirm that 7 has already been asked to regularize.
Yes, to resubmit. Yeah.
To resubmit, while 2 are currently under review.
Yeah, these are additional ones that came after the 7. Yeah.
Okay. That's I definitely get that answer very well. Mr. Jallow, the 2021 presidential election and subsequent polls achieved notable milestone, but also face serious criticism over logistic transparency and trust. What concrete changes or reform has the IEC implemented, since then to raise the bar high for 2026 presidential elections in December?
I like the topic, the theme of this discussion. You said rebuilding trust. I would have used building trust, because when you say rebuilding trust, okay, trust perhaps must have been broken somewhere.
Yes.
This is normal in any electoral process. There is no way that you can have unanimity or consensus around electoral issues, and this is based on my experiences elsewhere. As I always say, elections, because people have different agendas, they have different strategies, and at times, it's very difficult for them to accept, certain and to put it mildly, we as an IEC, we are thick-skinned. We are ready to face constructive criticism, and where we are found wanting, we'll try to improve. So based on experience in the past and drawing on international best practices, we're trying to see how we can improve the process and make sure that there is greater trust and confidence around the process, as I told you earlier. Because after all, we are not the owners of the process. The Gambian people are the owners of the process. And as I always say, elections integrity is very important. So we are working also on improving certain things, making sure that everybody, all the stakeholders are on the same page. Inclusion, participation, and to make sure that we communicate transparently and in a very timely manner to make sure that there is no room for speculation or assumptions. All the information is shared in a very transparent manner, especially when it comes to voter registration, to all the entire electoral process, I would say. And that's what we've been trying to do. And with the support of the UNDP and the EU, especially the GREAT project, we are doing a lot to that effect. There are certain experiences that we have learned in the past, and we are trying to make sure that this would not be business as usual. Because it would not be business as usual. That doesn't mean that we have not been doing very well, but we can still improve. And that is what we are trying to do. We're trying to get everybody on board. We want to make sure that the youth, the women, the persons living with disabilities are fully on board. They are not disenfranchised. So that is very important also. And when it comes, recently I witnessed the Kayaf and Sibanor elections. I was in Kayaf. I witnessed the whole process from the opening of the polls to the counting. And I can tell you that the party agents, they were there, all of them, and they were very satisfied with the way we operated. And we are going to build on that. Counting on the spot, in the presence of agents, and closing the seals in the presence of the agents, opening of the ballot box in the presence of the agents, and making sure that they all agree that there is nothing in those drums before they are sealed. And when they are being unsealed also, when they're being sealed, they will be there. And when the ballots are being unsealed, they will be there also. And The polling centers are the counting centers, and then the collusion centers, and then, the process is very, very transparent. We are going to build on that. And not only that, we're trying to use digital platforms with the support of UNDP to make sure that our system is digitalized, the results transmission system. And as the chairman would always like to say, we will have some sort of projectors where the results would be put live, so everybody would be on the same page. You will see it live there. You can record the results and everything, and so that also helps to build trust, to make sure that there are no speculations, there are no assumptions, and all that stuff in it. And we try to hold also our staff to the highest standards of integrity. Any we don't tolerate. There is zero tolerance for any misconduct. There have not been any cases of misconduct, but we are just reiterating this, that the IEC is going to make sure that integrity is at the core of everything that we are going to do. That is very important.
Absolutely. You talk about transparency, and then when you talk about transparency, in election, it has to do with credibility. And you made mention that from the by-elections, that hope has been restored. Whereas, party agents will come, ballot drums will be opened in their presence, on-spot counting will be held in their presence. How do you intend to roll out this in the December presidential election? But because that's the main one. And then we remember that immediately after the 2021 election, opposition political parties like the UDP, felt that the election result do not reflect them. And that matter has been resolved at the Supreme Court. What is the IEC learning from that case moving forward?
Seni, please allow me not to comment on judicial decisions that were taken in the past. Okay. I've just joined the IEC, okay. And I would not like to, there have been legal precedents that have been created by judicial decisions and all that stuff. And one of them, which is important, is the issue of the tenure of councillors and mayors, which used to be 5 years and is now 4 years. And that is why we have a shorter electoral cycle. But what I can tell you, that's why I started off by saying that we have dedicated team of officers, young women and men, who bend over backwards to make sure that they deliver on their mandate. Concerning what you're talking about, to ensure that there is transparency, regional election officers and assistant regional officers, I've seen them and work with these drums and what they do to make sure that we meet deadlines, we meet targets, and we comply with the electoral laws. Because at the end of the day, we are guided by the Constitution, the Elections Act, and the Local Government Act. And everything that is required to be done within the confines of those laws, we'll make sure that we'll do that. So, opposition parties or political actors challenging results, that is normal.
Yeah.
That is normal. Honestly, for us, we try to, where we feel that the criticism is justified, we look at it objectively as a commission to see how we can remedy and avoid the recurrence of such, of errors where errors exist. But I can tell you that as a commission, we are committed as a team, not as individuals, actually, as a team, to make sure that we do the right thing and make sure that we act with integrity in delivering on our mandate in a very transparent and credible, impartial manner.
Absolutely. For those tuning in, this is the final take with me, Seni Marena, in the studio today. We have a seasoned former UN diplomat and currently the vice chair of the Independent Electoral Commission, Mr. Cherno Jallow, talking to me in his first major public interview since his appointment last year. Mr. Jallow, going forward to my next question. A late 2025 CIPRES survey indicated that only 27 of Gambians expressed confidence that the IEC can deliver free and fair election, with widespread concerns about voter buying, register integrity, result integrity. How seriously does the commission take these figures, and what specific is a visible step are you taking between now and December to rebuild and demonstrate trust?
Seni, I think you're coming back to the same issue that we've talked about building trust.
Yes.
That is key in any electoral process. Because if there is no trust and confidence in an electoral process, then there is a problem. Already the credibility of those elections are being challenged. And but unfortunately, what we are seeing, I don't want to comment on polls. Polls, we've seen examples where polls have been completely discredited, where they come up with some projections, and at the end of the day, we've seen it.
But Uncle
You know,
polls are also
no,
guiding.
no, I know. No, no, I'm not yet done. I'm
Okay,
not
go
yet done.
ahead.
I'm saying that we cannot discard what the polls are saying, but we
Yes.
take note.
Okay.
We take note. We do examine some of these issues in a very, serene and cool, cool-headed manner to try to do our own analysis also,
Mhm.
which we
Okay.
always do.
Mhm.
But what I would like to tell you, and I would like to repeat this, our commitment and as per our mandate is to make sure that we deliver credible,
Mhm.
fair, and transparent elections that would be reflect the will of the people, of the Gambian people, because that is our responsibility. We are accountable to the Gambian people. And as human beings, we have a legacy. And a legacy, whether we are here or not, would outlive us, and that is derived from what I always say, integrity and acting with conscience. That is very important. And recently, when we had this tour with recently we had a tour, countrywide tour, where we met the governors, the chiefs, and the alcalolo. And what I always reminded them that beyond the confines of the law, there is what you call integrity and conscience, and that at times it is important we factor this into account because sooner or later we will all be departing this world and we have our families, our kids, and we want to leave a certain legacy here so that we would not be penalizing unduly our families members that are left behind.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Jallow, for that answer. Now let's look at the other questions in late, because you just joined the IEC, and then the IEC has been in operation for many years. They have conducted more than 5 elections since the Second Republic, and then in late 2025, the National Assembly's Finance and Public Account Committee highlighted issues including over 8 million in IEC collected revenue, party registration fees, nomination deposit, etc. That were not properly remitted to the consolidated fund, as well as questions about grant handling. As Vice Chairman, how do you address these audit findings, and how does the IEC balance its constitutional independence with full public financial accountability?
Seni, I see you've been following these discussions in Parliament, which were live streamed. And actually, you remember I was the one who led the delegation of the IEC.
Okay.
And we had a lengthy discussion with the FPAC to the extent that some people thought that I was trying to be, not respectful of Parliament by asserting or over asserting the independence of the IEC, because there is a conflict here in the provisions of the Elections Act and the Financial Act. So it was the issue of which should take precedence over the other.
Yeah.
Funds collected by the IEC, should they be paid into the consolidated fund or not?
Remitted to the consolidated.
And finally, we agreed that we would seek a legal opinion on
Okay.
that at the level of the Supreme Court. And if the ruling is in favor of the IEC, then the FPAC would comply with that. That was the understanding. You followed the discussions. These were discussions that went on for over 2 hours.
Yes.
But what I would like to state here, IEC as an institution is respectful of authority, constitutional authority. That doesn't mean that we are not accountable. We have oversight institutions that are there to ensure that we are accountable, and that it should be made abundantly clear. We are very, very respectful and committed to ensuring that we work with these oversight institutions to make sure that we do the right thing. I wouldn't want to belabor the issue of the audit report, but
Yeah.
what I would tell you, some of the recommendations, and that is the primary purpose of most of these audit exercises, is to make sure to help you improve the way you're operating. And we have taken on board some of those recommendations. We now have an internal audit unit, we have a legal officer, we have an ICRA of department, and we are working with UNDP, gender unit also, and PWD to make sure that these units are fully functional and operationalized. So these are some of the, so some of the recommendations we've already taken on board before even the finalization of these discussions. And all some of these issues that they have been raised at the FPAC, we've provided all the relevant supporting documents, which they felt were bulky. I think they can take about 3 or 4 wheelbarrows. We provided all the documents just to make sure that we are very transparent in what we are doing.
Mr. Jallow, this is a little bit confusing because IEC has a constitutional independence. And with this public finance accountability, how do you balance this? Because, you make revenues, you collected money from party registration fees and nomination deposits. But the oversight committee said you are not properly remitting this to the consolidated fund. Do you think by law this is something that the IEC should do or should not do?
Seni, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't like dabbling into areas that are not mine.
Okay.
I would allow those who are better placed and the courts to decide on that.
Okay.
Actually, so please, you would understand.
I
would not want to
definitely,
comment on that because that has been the subject of a long run exchanges in Parliament, which were live streamed and you all followed. So I don't think we should come back to that.
Okay. Thank you for that. Moving on, opposition voices and citizens continue to demand more technology, biometric voter verification at polling station, electronic transmission of result, live result publication, observer access, etc. What integrity and openness measures, tech or non-tech, will the IEC definitely implement to remove doubts and allow real-time verification during elections?
Seni, as I stated, you know how the electoral process works in the Gambia, the ballot system, the agents are there. We cannot start the voting without the presence of the agents. We cannot seal the ballot boxes with drums without the presence of the agents. They are always there. And we all make sure that they were on the same page before the sealing of the ballot. They verify and look at everything. When it is at the end of the voting, it's the same process. They're still there. And when the ballots are being transported, they are still there. The counting is done on the spot. They are there. The transmission of the results, of course, we are looking at the possibility of digitalizing or semi-digitalizing. That's what I said it earlier on. And we have this EU and UNDP great project. They've already given us projectors for all the for all the regional offices, which are already there. And then we are moving to see how we can use some of these digital platform tools to enhance the transmission of results and publication of results. But otherwise, everybody, stakeholder is on board when it comes to the elections, from the start of the vote to the counting to the transmission of the results. There's no doubt about that. And party agents, all the party agents could bear testimony to that. They are always involved. But all the same, we're trying to see, because, it's always good to learn and improve and draw from best practices. And that is what we're trying to do, Because
but
people always
Mr.
ask
Jallow,
us why.
you mentioned in your earlier response to one of my questions that, plans are already, afoot, to use projectors to display the results real time. coming to these questions, I think that's also tech related. Is IEC going to roll that in December?
No, yeah, absolutely. That is the plan. That is the
Okay.
plan.
Okay.
That is the plan. We already have the projectors, and we're working on that together with the support of the UNDP and EU. So yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So who are your major partners for December elections? Is both the UNDP and EU?
African Union, ECOWAS, and other partners. Yeah, these are the
Okay.
main partners. But
Okay.
UNDP and EU has been very supportive, and they've been helping a lot.
Okay.
And even the jacket I'm wearing now, you can see it's IEC
Yeah,
UNDP.
that's why we have to see you live, for transparency purposes, because we cannot speak to the vice chairman, off camera, but we can only hear your voice. But I understand that's none of your fault.
Now, we'll have
You
another opportunity, Seni,
yeah.
because this commission is committed to proactive communication,
Right, right.
proactive and timely communication,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it
right.
is our obligation to make sure that we are on the same page.
Yeah.
We have to be on the same page, and that way we can dissipate any mistrust or suspicion that we are having, doing something ungodly or anything whatsoever. No, that
Absolutely,
is
and
not.
I definitely appreciate your comment, because this is what need to be done. Media and independent oversight institutions are not enemies; they are partners. So that's why moments I try to reach to you, I was like, Mr. Jallow, I want to have you on my platform to discuss about the independent. You say, oh, why not? I will come over and then we discuss. And that is the beauty of democracy, and those institutions being partners to the media to ensure that there is no fake news or there is no speculation, so that there can be information afloat for the
Seni, you've just touched on a very important aspect, the issue of fake news.
yeah.
The issue of fake news, misinformation, and disinformation. People think that we've been targeted a lot of times.
Yeah, I
And
see.
when you target the IEC and you discredit the IEC, ultimately you are discrediting the electoral process before even it starts.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
people should be mindful of that. And
So
I
what
would
are
like
you guys
to,
doing to fight that fake news, disinformation, misinformation? Because trust me, Mr. Jallow, you know it or not, 2026 December election will be very crucial for the Gambia, especially with the advance of AI. I don't know what efforts is the commission doing to combat this fake misinformation that deep media peddle during election. We have seen the Russian collusion in the US election and elsewhere. So I don't know what the IEC is doing to make sure that they tackle or combat the use of fake informations, also the use of AI. AI is very, very important and is very good in a good usage, but it can also create a lot of problems, especially with regards to election integrity, in the cases of developing countries like the Gambia. So I don't know what are you guys doing ahead of the December polls to ensure that, at least you combat this deep fake AI that is causing problems across the world.
no, thank you very much, Seni. We are very alive to the threats and dangers posed by fake news, disinformation, misinformation, and the use of which have the potential to be disruptive
Yeah,
and derail electoral processes in any country. We are alive to that, and that is why we've been in partnership with UNESCO, with UNDP, and with other international partners. We've been organizing targeted workshops
okay.
to make sure that political parties, civil society,
Media.
um, media, opinion leaders are all trained on how to fact check, fact check, and all that stuff, and to make sure that we do not rely on fake news, what is
Okay.
being peddled on social media. And that is why I've always stated that as IIC also we have to be very proactive and timely in our communication to make sure that there is no room for speculation or assumption. I remember when we are in Mansakonko having this retreat on the new Elections Act, some people wrote to me saying that, oh, we understand you are registering voters, registering voters in
That
months
that
of
is
August.
that is one of my questions I want to
So
ask
how
you.
come we are registering and the party agents and all the other stakeholders are not informed? Whereas you people, you have already our program, you have our operational plan, you know when registration is supposed to take
Yeah.
place. So you also have a responsibility
So
in trying to make sure that, yeah.
how true is those allegations, Mr. Jallo? Because there was a photo
No, no,
that was
I'll tell you the response I gave to somebody, I said
okay.
absolute nonsense.
Okay,
Because it
absolute
was not true.
nonsense.
It
Yeah.
was unfounded. We cannot do that. We are very transparent, and at the appropriate time when we start registration, it would be on the first of it would start on the 1st of April through the 14th of May, and it is in the public domain. That's why we are touring all our registrations, making sure that everything is in time for the preparation of for the launch of this process. So these are the type of things. When you try to discredit the body that is supposed to be the ultimate referee, what people don't know, you are already discrediting the electoral process, and then you're creating the basis for chaos. So that is, I always appeal to political actors across the divide to be responsible, and opinion leaders also in their communication, because miscommunication can be problematic. People would not realize but once you utter certain things, there is no way you can withdraw them. So we have to be very measured and make sure that we do the right thing when it comes to communication. This is an appeal to political actors across the political divide, not the opposition, not all of them,
All of
and
them,
also
including
to
the
opinion
ruling
leaders.
firm.
And there is a report also by the National Human Rights Commission, which clearly points out who the main perpetrators are. That's why we work in partnership also with such institutions and also with the National Commission on Civil Education to make sure that everybody is sensitized on the dangers posed by, some of these, that trend on social media, which
Yeah.
are totally unfounded.
Okay. Okay. Many thanks. I'm loving this conversation, Mr. Jallo. That is why it's always important to have officials like you, come to the media, to talk about these real issues, because elections all over the world are not child play. You have lived in conflict zones that have been ravaged because of electoral malpractices. You have lived in countries where people cannot even access basic needs because of the decisions they made at elections. So elections all over the world are very, very important. Moving forward, ensuring level playing field. With over 20 registered parties and a highly competitive field, some opposition leaders have stressed that the IEC must act strictly as a neutral referee. How is the Commission guaranteeing equal treatment, fair access to media, public resources, and impartial enforcement of rules for all contestants in this game?
Seni, beyond being neutral, we are committed to being impartial. You know, we are committed to make sure that we act strictly within the confines of the relevant provisions of the Constitution, the Elections Act, and the Local Government Act, and ensure that there is transparency, there is fair play, and a level playing field. And all political parties and actors are held to the same yardstick and standards. There is no doubt about that. As a commission, we are committed to that, and you can give us the benefit of the doubt. We will deliver on that.
You will deliver on that promise. That's the words of the IEC number 2 on how transparent they will be to ensure a level playing field. Let's talk about inclusivity, risks, youth turnout, women participation, persons with disability, diaspora voters remain key. What targeted outreach, accessibility measures, and voter education campaign is the IEC running or planning to maximize inclusive participation in the registration and election phases?
Now, when it comes to inclusivity, we've started this process long time ago, about 8 months ago. We organized country-wide targeted trainings for vulnerable groups,
Yeah.
women, and persons living with disabilities. This was countrywide. And I
Okay.
remember the last meeting that crowned this entire tour. I did the opening of that meeting,
Mhm.
and it was well attended. It was supported by, I think, UNESCO and some other partners. So we tried to make sure that all these segments of society that have hitherto been marginalized
Mhm.
are fully empowered, not only as voters, but also to be potential candidates. And although there is no fixed legislative quota for the representation of women or these vulnerable groups, we've been advocating with political parties to make sure that the representation, inclusion of these vulnerable and these segments of society
Mhm.
are prioritized within their own party structures. And we will continue doing that. With the support of UNDP,
Mhm.
we've recruited two consultants,
Okay.
one for gender, PWD,
Mhm.
persons with disability, and another one for the strengthening of our legal unit to make sure that the legal unit also is able to play its role in supporting the entire process.
Absolutely. So, meaning the IEC has already put in efforts in place, measures in place to ensure that people with disability are also part and parcel of this electoral process.
And I will want to add something. Recently, during my tour of the registration centers, the first thing we look at
Mhm.
actually is the accessibility for persons with disabilities. We
Okay.
make sure that the sites that we use facilitate the access to the registration centers for these
Yeah, so
vulnerable
that they
groups.
can vote
Yeah,
and register.
register. Yeah. So we building ramps everywhere where these are absent, and to make sure that we facilitate their movement also.
Yeah, yeah, because this has been an issue not only with the IEC vice chairman. You go to schools, people with disability can climb, to have access to a classroom because either the contractor or the school management did not put into consideration those challenges faced by the people with disability. But I'm glad that the IEC is looking into this to ensure that those people also can go smoothly to register and vote in elections. Many
And
times,
Seni, and recently in collaboration with the National Human Rights Commission,
mhm,
IDEA International, and the National Assembly, and other partners, there were discussions to see how legislation could be, made to foster greater inclusivity and representation of these vulnerable groups, and even to the extent of proposing some reserve seats and all that stuff. There was
wow,
these discussions that were on also,
absolutely,
and the
absolutely.
IEC was invited um, uh, as consultants to give their views on that issue also.
Okay. Many thanks, Mr. Jallo, for those brilliant answers. Moving on, we are just left with at least 8 more minutes before we wrap this very important conversation. I'm loving the conversation because a lot of informations are coming out that are very important for public consumption. That's very important to highlight. Managing a multi-party race, potential tensions, resource constraint, misinformation we talk about, and external pressures are all on the horizon. What do you personally regard as the IEC's single most significant challenge between now and 5th December 2026, and how will the commission overcome this?
The most important challenge for the time being, these are twofold actually: combating misinformation, fake news,
Yeah,
and
potential
disinformation,
tension.
trying to discredit and malign the IEC.
Yeah.
We don't have a problem with that. We are this thick-skinned,
Mhm.
but where the criticism is constructive, we take on board.
Yeah.
But when it is vicious and just geared towards maligning and discrediting, we have a problem with that.
With
But
that.
the other main challenge, which is a fundamental challenge, is the lack of resources.
Okay.
Lack of resources. Government is doing very well trying to provide the requisite resources, but this is a major challenge. And hopefully, sooner or later, we will we will get the necessary funds to make sure that we start in earnest the voter registration in November.
Mr. Jallow, do you guys have a budget for the 2026-2027 electoral cycle? And then what is your budget target? How much are you asking for a successful electoral cycle, complete electoral cycle to conduct the elections?
We have I think elections budget to the tune, if my memory serves me right,
Okay.
which was approved by Parliament to the tune of 500 million for the entire
Dollars
election.
or in dollars?
No, Dallas is not dollars. Dallas is, that's why we're getting the UNDP and other partners to supplement our budget. Yeah. But it has been approved, and we had very good discussions with the Minister of Finance, actually, and the funds were supposed to be released, I think, by yesterday or Monday.
That's a good news.
We've been pushing very hard, and we reminded Parliament the other day also to use its influence to make sure that the funds are released on a timely basis, to make sure that we're able to conduct in all serenity and level-headedness our mandate. Yeah.
Mr. Jallow, on-spot counting has been talk of town, and because of that, we understand that the former president, lost the elections. So now, tell me, who should people hear about in terms of election announcement? We know that the IEC is the official constitutionally mandated to announce election result, but because this on-spot counting now, people announce results before the IEC do. What do you think? Is this something that is morally correct or legally correct, or people can do it, but still they have to wait for the IEC?
Saying the constitutionally mandated authority in terms of announcing results is the IEC. Is the IEC. There's no doubt about that. All other results that are announced or published by the media, those are provisional results. So the final results are always announced by the IEC. But for the purpose of transparency and but the final results, the announcement remain the exclusive domain of the IEC and the chairman, who is the returning officer for the general election, and for the municipal, for the other elections, the various returning officers.
Okay. You talk about there has been certain changes to local government elections. Instead of 5 years, it's now 4 years. Am I correct?
Yes. That's why you're having the elections next year. That's why you have a shorter electoral cycle. The electoral cycle is now shorter because you have presidential election barely 1 year before 1 year. Even within the next 1 year, you have the other elections, mayoral, chairpersons, and council election. Because people went to court and there was a court ruling.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a legal precedent. So we have to, the IEC have to comply with these court rulings.
Okay. Yeah. So the IEC has already complied, right?
No, we have to comply. We don't have a choice. We are very law abiding, regardless what.
Interesting. I'm loving
we
this.
Steny, we don't operate outside the confines of the law. I always repeat it.
Okay. People will say IEC, the name itself means independent. So how independent is the Independent Electoral Commission, Mr. Jallow?
We are very, very independent, I can assure you. Not only independent, but impartial also. And not only impartial, but accountable also to the Gambian people. And at the core of everything is what we call integrity.
Okay.
And that integrity is the driving force of everything that we do. It's at the core of what we do.
Integrity is at the core of whatever the IEC is doing. Finally, Mr. Jallow, direct message to the nation. as we head towards what many view as the most consequential election since 2016 transition. What's your personal appeal to Gambian voters, political parties, civil society, the media, including myself, youth, women, the diaspora, and international partners ahead of this crucial December polls?
You know, this is a multi-stakeholder process, and each stakeholder has a role. And in the execution or the performance of that role, I would just appeal that we demonstrate the maximum responsibility and circumspection in all that we do, remembering that ultimately we are working towards the same objective. We may have different agenda and strategies, but the ultimate objective is the enhancement of betterment of the plight of the Gambian people, and to make sure that we have a better Gambia. So let us just demonstrate responsibility and make sure that we do the right thing. We avoid insults, use of hate speech, which is not very helpful, and also see the bigger picture, which is the Gambia. We want, all of us, we want a better Gambia for all of us and for our kids. So let us all strive to work towards that. That is the message I have for Gambians.
Absolutely. That's bring us to the final end of this very interesting conversation with the Vice Chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission. I call him a veteran UN diplomat. He has been working in the peace and security with the international organizations, with the UN for many, many years before returning back home to pick up the role at the Independent Electoral Commission. Many thanks, Alagie Cherno Jallow, for having time to come on this show to talk about the elections, the IEC, and the preparations. Many thanks once again for coming.
Thank you very much, Seni. It's been a pleasure. Always at your disposal. Please do not hesitate.
Thank you.
We owe this to the Gambians to make sure that we communicate and keep them fully informed of everything that we are doing in a very transparent manner. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And then we definitely appreciate that gesture from you. Many thanks once again, Mr. Jallow. For those tuning in, that's the final take with me, Seni Marina, that brings us to the end of this show. Until then, do enjoy the rest of our program. So better still, visit our website for more interesting conversations on politics, sports, education on our website, www.alcambatimes.com, or you can follow our social media platforms.
Tune into the final take with MK Marina every Saturday on the Alcamba Times and experience extensive conversations on a variety of topics, including national and international headlines, breaking issues, and major developments in politics, business, innovation, science, and sports, along with inspiring stories and expert analysis to provide a comprehensive understanding of the news.